and thank you very much for being back on time. Now for our final session today, I have quite an array here of panelists, wonderful people, powerful people, sheer power. Since there are so many, I hope they will put their case and rest it very quickly, so that everybody has a chance and that we get some feedback from the floor. Because we have six panelists, it's a long list. Yeah. So maybe I introduce all of them once and then we are finished. Right here on my left, I have Professor Mthuli Ncube, who is the Chief Economist and Vice President of African Development Bank. And Dr. Ncube, Professor, holds a PhD in Mathematical Finance from Cambridge University in the United Kingdom. He was also lecturer in finance at the London School of Economics. He was Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Law and Management, and also Dean and Professor of Finance at Wits Business School at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. And he's now, of course, the chairman of the board of the African Economic Research Consortium. So he's the boss here. They work hand in hand with Professor Sembet. You too, like Professor Sembet, we are very proud of you. We are happy to have you on board, leading AERC. AERC. And Professor Ncube was nominated chairman of Global Agenda Council of the World Economic Forum on Poverty and Economic Development in 2010-2011, and deputy chair in 2011 and 2012. So we are very happy to have you, Professor. I have Admassu Tadesse, who is the president of and chief executive of the PTA Bank, Eastern and Southern Africa Trade and Development Bank. You know, he was appointed in 2011, so he has been on the job for a while. Prior to that, he served Development Bank of South Africa, where he served for about 10 years, heading the international division, as well as the corporate division for corporate strategy, planning, marketing, communication. He worked for several years as a special advisor, project executive, management consultant, management trainer, and economist. You know, if I were to read this, you have to reach for tissues. You'd be reduced to tears because he has achieved so much. Be satisfied that we have a heavyweight here. Then we have Dr. Fundanga, also very accomplished. He was in academia as a lecturer there, but then became the permanent secretary in the French version, we would say Director General of in the Ministry of Finance, and then Cabinet Office and Planning Commission. Then he went to the African Development Bank as the executive director, and later on became the senior advisor to the then president of the African Development Bank. So he has been in high places. And then after that, authorities in Zambia wanted to take advantage of his experience, and he was appointed governor of the Bank of Zambia. So he has a lot of experience, very rich background. Then we have Jean-Louis Ekra, who assumed his role as the president and chairman of the board of the African Export-Import Bank. We normally just say Afrexim Bank, which is based in Cairo, Egypt. So in January, after holding a number of positions, including executive vice president and senior executive vice president of that same bank. And under his leadership, the bank was really assigned an investment credit rating by 3 major international rating agencies, Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's. So we won some awards. So again, we have a very, very, very experienced person here who was even listed among the 100 most influential people in Africa by New Africa. So we are very much honored by your presence. He even received a Lifetime Achievement Award from African bankers. So, sir, we are honored to have you. And on my left, we have Meaza, Ashenafi. She's the founding executive director of the Ethiopian Women Lawyers Association. It takes courage to be the founder, really, and pioneering, and responsible for initiating and leading legal reform process that resulted in the amendment of several discriminatory laws in Ethiopia. She is also the founding chair of Enat Bank, a women's focused commercial bank that is established to increase women's success to finance and expand their opportunities. So here is somebody who actually lived financial inclusion of those who were excluded. She is also gender or women's rights focal person at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa Capacity Development Division. She has many awards, but I want to mention two at least. Hunger Project Leadership Award in 2003, an International Women of Courage Award by US government in 2008. I think, Professor Beck, I don't have to introduce you again. You know, we introduce you elaborately. So this is our panel, a very solid panel, which is going to build, you know, on the plenary paper presentations, and they are going to discuss policies regarding financial inclusion and innovation. And of particular interest would be the role of public-private partnership in fostering financial inclusion in Africa. So more specifically, the panel is an opportunity to provide deep appreciation of the importance of financial inclusion for growth and development in Africa, and also to provide a forum for exchange of views in here in this house between policymakers, private sector players, and non-state actors on the challenges and opportunities faced by policymakers, private sector, and non-state actors in their attempts to foster financial inclusion. This panel will also try to provide a platform to enable sharing of best practices on dealing with the challenge of financial inclusion, and to enable or facilitate exploration of areas of common, or shall we say mutual interest among the various role players in confronting these challenges and opportunities, So I have introduced you, I've introduced the subject, now it's over to you. I will follow the order that has been given to me here, so we will start with the president of the African Export-Import Bank. Jean, why should policymakers and other role players across Africa really concern themselves with financial inclusion? What's the fuss all about? And in other words, how does financial inclusion or lack thereof interface with growth and development in Africa? You say that and also put your own words on the whole subject. Since we are six, may I appeal? No. Just say what you have to say.
You can count on me for that. First of all, let me thank the organizer for inviting Afrexim Bank to share views here. We are honored as practitioners, to be among all those doctors and researchers Before coming, I asked my team, of course, to prepare some briefing notes, and I'll be more than happy to share them with the audience anytime. So, because many of the things that have been said this morning were actually in the notes. For me, I reckon that many of the conflicts arising in our continent are a consequence of exclusion or the feeling of exclusion. I can give you a couple of examples. More recently in Mali, a friend of mine who is originally from there told me that there is no road between Tombouctou and Kidal. Kidal is a place that you hear in the news every day. So if there is no roads, there couldn't be even any financial institution there. You take the case of Senegal, the Casamance area, which has been at war for years. That place is after the Gambia and after the River Senegal. When I was the managing director of the Post Office and the Post Saving Bank in Côte d'Ivoire in the 90s, that was before this rapid development of ICT that we've seen over the past 10, 12 years here now in Africa. I was tasked by the UN and many NGOs to help them move money in the western part of Côte d'Ivoire for the refugees coming from Liberia. That was an impossible task because there was not enough infrastructure allowing us to do so. So for private financial institutions, the cost of operating financial services in remote areas where basic infrastructure are limited or non-existent is a disincentive. Technology, and ICT in particular, could definitely play a role. But for the use of ICT, the key real challenge is, apart from infrastructure, is a regulatory framework. How to develop a harmonious regulatory framework between telecom regulators and banking regulators. Issues such as KYC, AML, and anti-money laundering, issues of monetary policy that's been discussed recently, are the real challenges. So for private investment, for banks who have been banking cross-border, you will notice that they would all go only in main cities. So that hurdle needs to be looked at. I suggest that more research being done, at least to help banking regulators to understand more or understand better what mobile banking's implications are. Because many central bankers have been reluctant to grant licenses or even to allow mobile banking in the country. I take the example of Egypt. They've been discussing it for the past 2 years. So that's my contribution of today. But as I said, all the issues I will send you to send the organizers the points that we put on paper. Thank you.